Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us. This time we're taking you to Meadowbrook, Georgia. Meadowbrook, you
It's
know?
idyllic.
Oh, yeah. You've got your white picket fences, your friendly neighbors, the whole 9 yards. But as you may have guessed, this is not a feel-good story. This is a deep dive into a shocking murder, one that kind of blows the lid off of Meadowbrook's perfect image.
Yeah, it's like taking a Norman Rockwell painting and then, adding a film noir twist to it.
Right, exactly.
What's really interesting is this case involves the town's beloved sheriff, Ethan Walker, and the young woman, Lila Patel. It really exposes those simmering tensions that are hidden beneath the surface,
Yeah.
even in those close-knit communities.
Yeah, and for this one, we've got court records, local news archives, even some personal journals
Oh, wow.
that give us some real insight into who these people were. So I think maybe a good place to start would be with Meadowbrook itself. I was looking through these articles, and it's clear that tradition and community are everything in this town. You
The
have
Peach Festival?
Peach Festival, the Historical Society, everyone knows everyone. And right at the center of it all is Sheriff Ethan Walker.
Oh, yeah. Sheriff Walker.
Yeah.
From the outside, he is like the picture of small-town values. Respected lawman, family man, pillar of the community. But you start digging a little deeper.
Yeah.
And you see the cracks in that perfect image.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, his marriage, from what I've read, sounds like it was more about duty than, delight. And then you have Layla Patel. She's this polite, ambitious young woman, and she's caught between what her family expects of her and what she wants for her own life.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah.
Imagine being a young woman and being raised in a culture that really values family, honor, and duty. But you feel this pull towards a different life.
Very
You get to choose your own path.
Right. And I think she sees that possibility in Ethan, the sheriff. He represents a world outside of Meadowbrook. And there was this one line in Lila's journal that really struck me. She wrote that she wanted to escape the gravity of her family's expectations. Wow, that's powerful. It speaks to that universal yearning for autonomy, especially for young people who are trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
You can see how that desire for something different. And Ethan's own dissatisfaction in his life kind of sets the stage for this dangerous connection.
And dangerous it was. This affair, this forbidden romance. It wasn't just a harmless fling. This was a powder keg ready to explode, especially in a town where appearances are everything. So when Lila's body is found, all eyes immediately turn to Ethan.
Oh, yeah.
The town is in an uproar.
I can only imagine.
Their sheriff, this symbol of stability and security, is suddenly a murder suspect.
Meadowbrook's probably a place where gossip spreads like wildfire, too.
Oh, I bet. So yeah, everyone's looking at Ethan.
Yeah.
The initial reports paint him as the classic scorned lover. Driven to a crime of passion, it's a narrative that fits right. But as we know, things are rarely that simple. And in this case, the forensic evidence really throws a wrench in that whole theory.
Really?
Yeah.
So what'd they find? The autopsy report shows that Lila didn't die from, some violent struggle or a fit of rage. She was poisoned.
Poisoned.
Deliberately.
Wow.
And the type of poison they found, well, let's just say it points the investigation in a very unexpected direction. Lila's family.
Oh, wow.
This is where the story takes a really dark turn. And we start to see this clash between personal desires and the weight of cultural expectations. Reading Arjun Patel's confession, it was chilling. This quiet, unassuming shopkeeper, driven to protect his family's honor, takes matters into his own hands with tragic consequences.
It's a reminder of how complex human motivation can be. How cultural values, while they're important, can sometimes lead to extreme actions.
Yeah, and it's tragic because both Lila and Ethan were looking for freedom, looking for a life outside of the roles they felt trapped in.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Their pursuit of happiness leads to unimaginable sorrow.
And that image of Meadowbrook, the town that prided itself on its close-knit community, is shattered.
Yeah, pieces everywhere. Makes you wonder about those perfect communities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, are they really immune to all the bad stuff?
Right, like in those true crime documentaries, where they start off by showing you this beautiful, peaceful town, and you think, no way anything bad could ever happen here, and then bam.
The story unfolds.
It turns out everyone's got secrets.
Yeah, and in Meadowbrook, those secrets were a powder keg just waiting to blow.
Exactly.
Yeah, the forbidden romance, the clash of cultures, and then a murder. It forces everyone to look at the dark side of human nature.
Yeah, and what's crazy is the aftermath is almost more fascinating than the crime itself. You'd think once the truth is out, things would calm down. But the effects of this just keep rippling out.
Like,
We'll take Ethan, for example. He becomes a complete outcast, loses his job, his family, his reputation, every
a little fall from grace.
Right. The sheriff, the symbol of law and order, is now a reminder of this huge scandal.
What about the Patel family?
Oh, man, their story is even more heartbreaking.
I-
Just imagine the weight of that secret. The guilt and the shame.
Yeah, and the community, too. They have to deal with the fact that people they thought they knew were capable of this.
It's like this collective trauma. Meadowbrook's lost its innocence.
Yeah, and the healing process, that's got to be long and difficult.
And all of this, it's easy to forget about Lila.
Oh, yeah, she's the real victim.
This young woman with so much potential, silenced by this horrible act.
Her story is so sad because she was just trying to balance her own dreams with what her family and community expected of her.
It makes you think, what if she had felt comfortable talking to someone
Yeah. What if there had been more open communication?
about the pressure she was facing?
It's those what ifs that really stay with you.
I think Lila's story is a powerful reminder that we need empathy and understanding, especially when we're dealing with cultural differences.
Things like family loyalty and honor.
You know, it's interesting how this case sparked all these conversations about honor killings.
Yeah, it's not something a lot of people knew about before.
But Lila's story brought it to light.
It forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths.
About cultural practices that clash with basic human rights.
And while it's important to acknowledge the cultural context,
Hmm.
we can't excuse violence and oppression.
Right?
Lila had the right to live her life and make her own choices.
And that's a conversation that needs to continue. We can't just ignore these issues. Lila's story deserves to be heard.
Absolutely, and her tragedy should inspire change.
So where does all of this leave Meadowbrook, this town that was so proud of its community? What happened to their faith in each other, their belief in goodness? Well, I was looking through some town council meeting minutes and local news reports, and it seems like Meadowbrook went through some serious soul searching. Some folks wanted to just pretend it never happens, go back to that image of the perfect town.
I can understand that impulse.
Yeah, but others felt like this was a wake-up call, like they needed to finally address some issues they'd been ignoring.
Wow. It's amazing how one event can just blow everything wide open.
Right, it's like that crack in a dam,
Exactly.
holding back all this pressure,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it all comes rushing out.
Makes you confront things you'd rather not.
So Meadowbrook, it's like the town itself became a patient,
Interesting.
trying to heal from this collective trauma. There were support groups for the families involved, town hall meetings about diversity and inclusion, even a push for cultural sensitivity training for law enforcement and community leaders.
That's huge. Recognizing that cultural differences can cause problems. That's a
Yeah.
big step towards building a more tolerant society.
And it looks like Meadowbrook is slowly getting back to normal. But it's a new normal, shaped by what happened.
They've traded in those rose-colored glasses
Yeah.
for a more realistic view of the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Meadowbrook, what do you think is the biggest takeaway?
I think it's that reminder that everyone has hidden depths. Communities, individuals. You've got the good and the bad.
And it's facing those complexities head on.
Right. Being open and honest with each other.
That's how we build a better world.
A more compassionate world.
It really makes you think twice about those picture-perfect towns.
Yeah.
Because as we've seen, even in the most idyllic places, there can be dark secrets lurking beneath the surface. But even in the face of tragedy, there's always hope. Hope for healing, for understanding, and for change. So for everyone listening out there, thanks for joining us. And until next time, stay curious.